Let's say a mad scientist has built a time machine and he's forcing you to pick a period in the Mesozoic to visit. Now, a great many of your options would end badly for you, but whatever you do not pick 150 million years ago. Because this was an age where sudden death waited around essentially every corner. Dinosaurs ruled the land, as they did throughout the Mesozoic, but even by dinosaur standards, the ones alive at this moment were something else. Some paleontologists consider this a genuine golden age, the peak for supersized sauropods and enormous meat-eating theropods. And here's the thing, even if you could snap your fingers and make every dinosaur vanish, this period would still be a hard no, because the land, the oceans, and the skies were all keeping secrets that were, let's say, deeply unfriendly to your continued existence. Welcome to the late Jurassic. Let's start with where you'd even be, because a map wouldn't help you much. North America is the most recognizable piece, at least it's holding roughly the right shape. But familiarity ends there. To the south sprawls Gondwana, a vast merged supercontinent stitching together South America, Africa, the Arabian Peninsula, India, Antarctica and Australia into a single landmass covering nearly a sixth of the planet's surface. From orbit, it would have looked like an enormous blob of land. And oddly, Gondwana isn't even the strangest continent. That honour goes to Laurasia, Europe, Greenland and much of Asia, which was drowned. Great shallow seas had flooded and fractured it into a scatter of islands. Europe in particular would have been unrecognisable, an archipelago of tropical islands sitting far closer to North America than it does today. Meanwhile, China sat right beside Iran and Turkey and nowhere near India. The geography, in short, was a mess. The oceans were simpler, just two great ones. The Tethys, already ancient, covering the eastern hemisphere, and the Pacific, younger but already dominating the west and steadily growing. And in between, something new was being born, the Atlantic. Though at this stage it was less an ocean than a long, warm, nearly landlocked sea. And warm is the word for all of it. Global sea temperatures averaged around 32 degrees Celsius, about 90 Fahrenheit. That's a warm bath. Even the deep Pacific sat around 17 degrees, roughly the temperature of tap water. And a big part of the reason lies beneath the waves, because the late Jurassic was a period of ferocious tectonic activity. And it was around this time that the single largest volcano we know of on Earth was built. It's called Tamu Massif, and it sits about 1,000 miles east of Japan. It covers an area larger than the state of New Mexico and rises around 4 kilometers from the sea floor, which puts it in the same conversation as Olympus Mons, the largest volcano in the entire solar system. In its active life, it would have poured carbon dioxide into the water, acidifying the oceans and heating the air above them. And that heat shaped the world. 150 million years ago was likely the warmest stretch of the whole Jurassic, with average temperatures around 20 degrees Celsius, significantly hotter than today. That warmth pushed vast dry biomes across both hemispheres, deserts and savannas with harsh, distinct dry seasons and brutal droughts. Toward the equator, it eased into lush tropical forest. And the mildest place of all? The poles. Because there were no ice sheets, no glaciers, the polar regions were temperate woodland, something like Central Europe today. And in that hothouse world, life absolutely exploded. And nowhere more than among the dinosaurs, which were reaching a level of diversity never seen before. The showcase is the Morrison Formation, an enormous ancient ecosystem sprawling across 13 modern American states. Over 40 dinosaur species are known from it, including around 10 different theropods, nearly every one big enough to make a meal of a human. But here's what surprises people. The apex predators of this world were not tyrannosaurs. Tyrannosaurs hadn't evolved yet. This was the age of the Allosaurs, and the king of them was Allosaurus itself, often called the lion of the Jurassic. It was staggeringly abundant, accounting for something like 70 to 75% of all theropod remains found in the Morrison. And it wasn't small. Adults averaged around 1.7 tons and stretched some 28 feet, armed with a mouth full of blade-like teeth and a slashing bite designed to open its prey up and let it bleed. There's even evidence it may have hunted in groups. Now, at this point in the story, most videos would tell you about a bigger predator called Sauropods, a 5-ton monster, the largest land carnivore on Earth. And I need to stop and be straight with you, because that's out of date. In 2024, a reassessment concluded that Sauropods isn't a real animal at all. It's a chimera, a jumble of bones from different creatures. Its main specimen probably belongs to a sauropod, and the predatory bones have been reassigned to a new, genuinely enormous species of Allosaurus, now called Allosaurus anax. So the giant is real, it just wasn't who we thought it was. Which I find rather wonderful. The monster of the Morrison turned out to be Allosaurus all along. And it had company. Torvosaurus, a megalosaur, was a genuine heavyweight around 4 tons. Ceratosaurus, smaller, about polar bear weight, and often called the underdog, though its agility and vicious bite made it a highly effective killer. Which raises a fair question. How did all these carnivores coexist without simply annihilating each other? And the answer is elegant. They didn't compete, they divided. Ceratosaurus hunted near water. Allosaurus preferred open ground. Different niches, different prey, an uneasy peace. Emphasis on uneasy, because the droughts of this world were savage, and the fossils record what happens when they hit. We find extensive evidence of cannibalism, of theropod on theropod violence, of desperate scavenging. When the water dried up, the truce collapsed. And the plant eaters? Some had no defense at all. Dryosaurus and Camptosaurus had exactly one strategy: run. But others went the opposite way and became genuinely dangerous. Stegosaurus is the icon, up to 30 feet, 5.5 tons, and armed with the thagomizer, that cluster of long, bony spikes on the tail. And we know it worked because we found an Allosaurus with a hole punched clean through its bone by a stegosaur spike. Then there was Mimora pelta, one of the oldest ankylosaurs, plated in armour from head to tail. Though, I'll be honest, armour wasn't a guarantee. Plenty of its remains show theropod bite marks. And then, above all of it, the sauropods. This may have been their absolute peak. Camarasaurus was possibly the most abundant animal in the entire Western Hemisphere, and it shared the land with a cast of household names: Brachiosaurus, Diplodocus, Supersaurus, Barosaurus, Brontosaurus, Apatosaurus. Every single sauropod alive then was massive. The smallest weighed 13 tons, the largest around 70. And here's what makes the late Jurassic so remarkable. The Morrison wasn't special. This was the pattern everywhere. Flee to Europe to escape Allosaurus, and Allosaurus is there too, along with Torvosaurus and Ceratosaurus. Head to Africa and you'll find Tanzania hosting Giraffa Titan playing Brachiosaurus's role, and Kentrosaurus standing in for Stegosaurus. The whole world had converged on the same terrifying formula. Though it wasn't all dinosaurs. Crocodile relatives were everywhere, mostly small, living, as everything did, in the shadow of the dinosaurs. And skulking underfoot were our own ancestors, the early mammal relatives. They'd already been around for over 100 million years, and they were versatile, some gliding, some climbing, some swimming, some scavenging dinosaur carcasses. But they were small, on average no bigger than a shrew, easy to overlook among giants. The skies belonged to the pterosaurs, who'd held them unchallenged for 80 million years, mostly hunting fish along the coasts. The largest around was Rhamphorhynchus's bigger cousins in Europe, with wingspans around 12 feet, big enough, with those spiked teeth, to potentially hunt other pterosaurs. And sharing the air, brand new and vanishingly rare, was Archaeopteryx, the earliest creature we're confident could achieve powered flight. A magpie-sized dinosaur and the ancestor of every bird alive today. But if you want to know why you really shouldn't visit, get in the water, because the seas of the late Jurassic were a nightmare. This was the age of the pliosaurs, the short-necked, big-headed cousins of the long-necked plesiosaurs, with skulls full of conical teeth. And the king was Pliosaurus itself. Adults reached around 33 feet and 5 tons, and they killed whatever they liked, up to and including sharks. The ichthyosaurs, the dolphin-shaped reptiles that had been the terror of earlier seas, had actually shrunk under pressure from this competition, though they still reached 23 feet. And prowling alongside them were the thalattosuchians, marine crocodile relatives with limbs turned to flippers and serrated flesh-shearing teeth. The largest, Machimasaurus, matched the biggest ichthyosaurs in length. So there it is, a hothouse world with no ice, packed with the largest land predators of the age, the biggest animals to walk the earth, sky reptiles overhead, and an ocean full of reptilian monsters that would make a great white look like a minnow. If that mad scientist offers you 150 million years ago, respectfully decline. Thanks for watching, and until next time, keep looking up.